It doesn't make you as ill as commercially produced alcohols were because it's pure.
Okay.
Albeit stronger.
Okay. So it's illegal, moonshine? Or
Yeah, for tax reasons. Only for tax reasons.
Okay. But no one really cares, right? They're not arresting people.
Yes, they are. Oh, yes. He was the founder of the first microbrewery. He was part of a super secret society of brewers that were the ones that began in 2009. Yes, resistant. Old structures of town, in the oldest part of town.
And so how did people have the money back then for this?
They owned land. They were wealthy business people.
Okay.
This is the Probst mansion. Dr. Probst was the chief pharmacist for Walmart. He's a local pharmacist. He had his own drugstore here.
Okay.
Became that, and then they started their own pill manufacturing facility in the country, and they became billionaires. So they held the most personal asset in this community of anyone else.
Look at that
And so
one.
they host a lot of social events.
Well, look at these places. They're huge.
At one time, this one right here was a room and boarding house for young women in college, and you could live there cheaply.
There's a lot of money in Huntsville.
Yes, tremendous.
So
amount of money.
old and new money.
Behind us, we pass the Masonic Twickenham. This is called the Twickenham District. Is the Masonic Temple. And as a youth, I was in the Order of D. Malay. I don't know if you've heard of that or not.
I haven't. That's under the Masonic
It's
label?
the young man's youth organization under the Masonic Temple. I was the master counselor of my chapter.
What was that like?
It was deeply versed in the Masonic order, although we were not permitted to know the Masonic order's ritual. And it was in the Scottish Rite Temple, and so I wore a white cape with the emblem of the Crusaders on it. It was the Knights Templar organization.
Emblem of the Crusaders?
The Knights Templar.
Huh.
Jacques de Molay was a Knights Templar. He actually existed, and he was killed and burned at the stake by the Spanish Inquisition. So we would replicate those actions through what we call rituals and reenact them inside the chapter.
Like you're reenacting the killing.
Exactly. We all had to memorize. The entire ritual is committed to memory. In the center of the room is an altar with the Holy Bible. We had the flower talk to honor our mothers. We talk about honoring mothers and family. It was to teach young men to be grown men and head of families.
Okay.
And follow all the principles essentially as outlined in the Bible.
Are you glad you did it?
Absolutely.
Gave a lot of good structure? Or?
Yes. And so, I mean, forever, I will always hold that. I was a past master counselor and representative of D. Malay. They give me a special pin, so I'm a subset of a higher order within that organization.
Okay.
As I got older, of course, I was out of the organization. They did try to recruit me, and they told me to postpone college and join the Masonic order, and that they would, at some point, if things went right, take care of my college needs to ascend you higher into their organization.
So why aren't you in the Freemasons now?
Because I went to college and I went into Army ROTC and became an officer on my own. And I just broke away from it. We're now headed up Montesano. We're now headed up Montesano Mountain. This is the highest elevation point in the city. Many of the Germans that worked for NASA, the founding members, had property up here, as did my grandfather, because it reminded them of Germany. The temperature differential is about 5 degrees in the summertime. They could sit up here in their balcony with binoculars and look at the launch pad stands, the test stands. And they were minimalist. They didn't live in the big houses.
So all these new big homes are just new big homes?
Exactly. The older ones that are small, that's where the Germans
Like that little one?
Yes. And this one right here. My mother pointed out this home in particular. There was one German engineer, and I forget his name, but he lived there. And she kept saying, up until he passed away, he's one of the team members, he could have lived in a much nicer home. But he probably had his furniture from the 1950s in there, and nothing new. This is the U.S. Space and Rocket Center. I don't know what that is. Could be a booster phase. It's a booster for something.
What about that one over there?
I don't know the model of that either. That's an earlier version. I know on the top, it's called the cue ball. You see on the top of the capsule?
Yep.
You see that spire on top?
Yep.
That's the emergency jettison device. So if the rocket fails on launch, the crew can ignite a booster rocket that's on top, and it separates the capsule with the astronauts in it away from the failing.
The very top part?
The very
there?
top, yeah.
Okay.
And so then deploy parachutes as the rocket is ascending. Say it has a failure of a main propulsion system, and it begins to lose power, or the bottom blows up. Well, the crew has an escape tool, and my grandfather worked on those designs because I have some of those documents, handwritten notes.
So where is NASA right now? I mean, isn't it all SpaceX?
NASA has made the decision to basically no longer produce, internally manufacture launch platforms per se, although they have the Artemis. I think it was the Artemis missile that they launched recently, but that's using, as again, commercial construction, okay? It's all farmed out to contract. So you just can't venture into space from this country without approval from the organizations that control access to space as viewed by our administration. And they've turned over, future spaceflight potential development technologies to commercial development.
Why do you think they've lost their mojo?
I really don't know. I don't know the answer. It's probably an economic tool to encourage commercialization of space travel for either research or travel or any other means, or military.
Because NASA was such an exciting organization back in the day.
Yes, it was.
Like it was,
And the next push is sending man to Mars.
and that's Elon.
That's correct. They have a German beer garden festival, and you can come in and you can dine underneath the Saturn V rocket that's on display inside. And you can stand and admire an actual V-2 missile from World War II.
That's the V2 right
That's a
there.
V-2, yes.
Okay.
That's a real one. And the engine is set aside also, if you look. I can see it.
Theo gets pretty pumped with it.
That's the V2 engine right there. That's the propulsion system. Kind of hard to see, but it's my favorite spot out here.
Okay, so what were you saying about documents?
There's an effort spearheaded by relatives of the original team members to collect all of the personal data, photographs, family history, work history. They used to be stored here, and they used to have a huge display of those people, the Germans, in Cape Kennedy, Canaveral, and here in 1960s and 70s in the main building. But I was told that a lot of that material was getting destroyed in unusual fires in a storage building in the back of this complex. So I personally resisted the effort to turn over any documents.
You have a lot of documents?
I have them in the trunk of the car.